I have a new obsession, and I need to share it with you. What's good, internet? Jake here, dumb as ever, and I did not really watch Power Rangers growing up. Weird way to start a video, I know. But Power Rangers is connected to the show I'm going to talk about called Kamen Rider. You might know that the Power Rangers series is a bit of a hack job, mixing scenes of American main characters with the fight scenes from a Japanese show called Super Sentai. I know for a lot of you this is lore 101, but as a complete noob myself, let me explain some of these basic elements for my fellow noobs and potential future fans. Also, if you want more Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Ultraman, etc. videos, please like and subscribe. And don't worry, my Transformers fans, I'll still of course discuss our favorite transforming robots as well, but I invite you to try something new here. Super Sentai is a genre of television called Tokusatsu, or special filming. Tokusatsu shows and movies heavily use practical effects and are usually pretty cheap to make, and the genre really kicked off with the release of Godzilla in 1954. In the 70s, the superhero subgenre of Tokusatsu took off with shows like Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and even Spider-Man. Yeah, there was a deal between Marvel and Toei, the owners of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, to try and get each other's brands popular in their respective regions as a win-win situation. So as a result, Toei made a Tokusatsu Spider-Man show that was very loosely inspired by the original comic book. For example, the main character gets his powers from alien blood and uses a mecha to fight giant monsters. That's a whole can of worms we can look into in the future, but shout out to the Marvel Legends line for making an action figure of this very unique Spider-Man. This is technically my first Toku action figure. But anyway, Super Sentai and Kamen Rider are kind of sister shows, sharing a block of television called Superhero Time in Japan. This video is not about Super Sentai, though I am watching the newest season called Gochizos, and boy oh boy, it is not a newcomer friendly season. These shows like to do anniversary seasons where they reference all the past shows, even though I think they're technically in different universes, but I'm still having a good time regardless. This video is about Kamen Rider, specifically the newest show in the series called Kamen Rider Gavv, or Gavv. But first, let me give a little bit of a history lesson on Kamen Rider. Starting in 1971, the first Kamen Rider show was about a man who was kidnapped by a terrorist organization called Shocker and turned into a mutant cyborg. He was supposed to be brainwashed and used as a soldier for the organization, but he escapes and fights the terrorists as the superhero Kamen Rider. The original show also established the use of two different Kamen Riders in one show, though this was less of a story decision and more so due to the first Kamen Rider's actor breaking his legs in a motorcycle accident. The first Kamen Rider series introduced many of the baseline requirements for most other Kamen Rider series. There is an evil organization terrorizing civilians. The Kamen Rider is a superhero that hides his identity and rides a motorcycle. The main hero transforms into Kamen Rider via a special belt. There's usually a transformation sequence where the actor says Henshin, which means transform or change in Japanese. Also, while the costumes are all very different from each other, most of them retain the grasshopper or bug theme of the original show, with the big bug eyes being a staple look and sometimes incorporating the antenna and forehead gem. Apologies if I'm missing some key lore details here. If Kamen Rider is your hyperfixation, I invite you to go buck wild in the comments section. I just love reading people gush about their favorite things. It's one of my favorite ways to learn about a new property. Okay. That's the baseline of Kamen Rider. Good guy fights evil organization, pretty simple. Despite most seasons following that simple plot, every season seems super unique and creative, stretching a simple concept into many different universes with their own rules. At least for the most recent seasons, there is always a gimmick that the writers use to transform, and that's where a lot of the creativity of the show comes from. Some previous gimmicks have been video games, card games, and even storybooks. In the most recent season, Kamen Rider Gavv, the gimmick is snacks. This is the season of Kamen Rider I've been absolutely hooked on and sparked this new hyperfixation. So fair warning, I'm going to talk about parts of the first 7 episodes and spoiling the hell out of a lot of stuff that happens and is revealed in those 7 episodes. Also, after I talk about the show, I'll talk about the toy line because this is very much a YouTube channel about toys, and toys are a pretty important part of Kamen Rider, okay? Okay, thank God. I can finally yap about this new hyperfixation unfiltered. Kamen Rider Gavv is the newest season of the classic Tokusatsu show, and I am completely enamored with it. The main character is Shoma, and though he looks human, he's actually half monster. The monsters in the show come from another dimension, and they are called Granutes. Granutes all have mouths on their stomachs called Gavvs. Shoma too has a Gavv, though his is less grotesque and evil looking. It's called the Red Gavv by other Granutes. Shoma's mother was kidnapped by Bush, a Granute and CEO of a Granute company called Stomach Inc. Stomach Inc. makes dark treats, snacks for Granutes that use humans as spice. And the happier the humans are when captured, the better spice they make. These dark treats are like drugs for Granutes, making them addicted and willing to work for Stomach Inc., capturing humans in exchange for dark treats. You see, the villains of the show aren't Granutes in general, just the ones that work under Stomach Inc. As far as I can tell, dark treats are actually illegal in Granute society. They're like black market items. Bush kept Shoma's mother as a prisoner and had a baby, Shoma, with her. She very much seems to hate Bush in flashbacks, so you can take an educated guess as to how Shoma was conceived. Shoma and his mother lived in a gray, boring room and ate gray slop to avoid being happy, so that Bush's daughters and sons wouldn't want to use Shoma or his mom for spice. I know, this is a pretty grim start, I'm not gonna lie, and it actually gets worse. Fast forward to present day, and Shoma is an adult and Bush has died. With the only real protection against his siblings gone, Shoma's brothers and sisters execute Shoma's mother by capturing her and snapping the plank in half. Shoma manages to get away and somehow finds himself falling through a door that leads to the human world, where his real life can finally begin. Okay, so that's a pretty dark start to someone's life, so you might expect Shoma to have this chip on his shoulder or may not care about life at all. But no, this dude is an absolute goofball. Shoma grew up being told about the human world by his mother, so in a way, Earth is a place of fantasy for him, and he can eat food with flavor and actually feel joy. He is a person who has had to suppress being happy his entire life, so he's like a fountain of positivity and kindness. His only true desire is to protect others, and he can do that with the power of the Red Gavv. Shoma is the definition of born to dilly-dally, forced to lock in. Though Shoma is half Granute, when he was born his Gavv didn't function as normal. Other Granutes have the ability to summon minions, which are fragments of themselves that can do tasks for them. Bush even had his trusted engineer Dente Stomach work on Shoma's Gavv when he was young, though at the time the surgery didn't seem to work. Shoma has always been unable to summon minions until he eats gummies. Eating gummies, chips, chocolate, really any snack foods causes his Gavv to create his very own small, adorable minions. These are called Gochizos, and they're one of the best parts of the show. These Gochizos can help Shoma out by patrolling the city and bringing him information on potential Granute attacks and operations. The Gochizos are also Shoma's key to unlocking his true form as Kamen Rider Gavv. Inserting different Gochizos into his Gavv gives Shoma access to many forms, though his default costume is the popping gummy form. This is the very first form Shoma gets, and I would say it's Gavv's signature look. I love the blue, yellow, and purple colors of it. And there's a really cool mechanic going on with the armor. It's made of gummy, so it's protective, but easily destroyed. And you can see Gavv missing armor pieces in battle, but luckily he can keep popping Gochizos into his Gavv to re-energize his form and replace missing pieces of armor. So when he's battling in this form, there's a cool push and pull of his armor being destroyed and him having to use Gochizos to heal it. It's almost like he has to reload his costume and makes for fun moments in fights. Gavvu can also summon the Gavga Blade, a powerful sword that can shoot Gochizos with varying degrees of effectiveness. The early episodes of the show follows a formula of Shoma meeting new people and helping them out with a problem or saving them from Stomach Inc. And usually Gavvu gets a new form or an upgrade to a form he already has. For example, he can use a different Gochizo with his Poppin' Gummy form to get a huge gummy fist to pound Granutes with. Gavvu will defeat the monster and then leave the area so the people he was hanging out with won't be in danger because of him anymore. Here's an example. At the beginning of episode 4, he finds some crops, and lacking social cues, he tries to eat some, not realizing they belong to an old couple, who yell at him at first, and then realize he has a striking resemblance to their son, who passed away 20 years prior. The old man even fully thinks that Shoma is his son for a second, which is pretty sad. The couple take him in and feed him, clearly enjoying having a hungry and positive young man in their home again. The couple gives him marshmallows as a snack, and he flips out like usual, eats them, and generates new marshmallow Gochizos. They even invite him to live in their home, which Shoma gladly accepts. Because of Shoma's childlike attitude, I can only imagine the emotions this old couple feels while spending time with him. It actually makes me really sad in a way. Everything seems hunky-dory, but Shoma and the old couple are attacked by agents at the market. Agents are the minions of the Stomach Inc. family, basically their versions of the Gochizos. Shoma realizes he has to keep these old folks safe, so he runs from them, leading the agents away. And he falls into the trap of Shita and Jiba, twin sisters who are low on the Stomach Inc. family totem pole. The twins almost successfully defeat Shoma, but he has a flashback to all the kind people he's met in the human realm, and finds the inner strength to fight off the agents. I know that seems cheesy, and it totally is, but the show really sells the cheesiness, and I felt so invested watching this episode, though I was sure Shoma would win the fight regardless. Shoma is able to use the Marshmallow Gochizo to unlock a new super puffy suit called the Fuwa Malo form. The suit makes Shoma light and fluffy, so the agents have trouble damaging him, but his hands are also wrapped in big marshmallow gloves, so he can barely wield the Gavga blade. Using the Gavv to eat more Marshmallow Gochizos lets Shoma turn into this goofy looking CGI version of himself, and then he forms into a giant rolling marshmallow that explodes. This show's CGI can be pretty insane sometimes, and I can't tell if the CGI is just bad or if they're leaning into the cartooniness of the situation. Regardless, I like it. Shoma defeats the twins' agents and they retreat. Shoma at first thinks to go back to the old couple, but then he remembers the twins taunting him that they would make for good spice. So he decides to leave them without saying anything, as a way to make them sad and protect them. This was a pivotal episode for me because this is some heartbreaking stuff, and it really helped me understand Shoma. Shoma grew up locked in a room, eating gruel, and being unhappy because that's what kept him safe from the Granoots. So of course he's persuaded by the same people to leave his new friends behind to keep them safe, but that all changes in the next episode. Episode 5 gives us more key backstory for Shoma, as he's found by Dente's stomach in the woods, and as a reminder, Dente's stomach is the engineer who worked on him as a child to fix his Gavv. This is the episode where we learn Bush kidnapped Shoma's mom, and Shoma has flashbacks to a scene of Bush slapping the mother in an altercation, which ends with Shoma running in front of his mom to protect her. Shoma snaps out of his daydreaming when he hears a child sobbing. He looks over to see a mother and child sitting by a sewer grate because the kid dropped his action figure in the sewer. The mother struggles to lift the grate, and Shoma instinctively offers to help and goes to lift it, but stops for a moment, realizing that if this child gets his toy back, he will be happy and thus ripe for Granoots to capture. There's a real moment where I was not even sure if Shoma was going to lift the grate, but he does, and he gives the kid the action figure. This scene is really important because you can also read it as a metaphor. Running into a young boy and his mother probably isn't a coincidence. They represent Shoma himself and his mother, and he can either pretend like he can't lift the grate and let the child be unhappy and safe, as he was as a child, or he can help the kid and mother and let them be happy. I think the choice of the action figure being a Toku-looking hero is purposeful as well. He lifts the grate and frees the toy of the Toku hero, while also resolving to free the Toku hero within himself, and protect happy people instead of creating sad people. This is a huge turning point for Shoma, and at the end of the episode, he goes back to see his friend Sachika. Sachika is first and foremost a queen, and secondly, she is the second friend that Shoma makes in episode 2. Sachika finds Shoma passed out in the park and brings him back to her business called Happy Parade, which means Handyman Happy Parade. The building is so colorful and strange looking, and inside of the business is equally so. I love the maximalist design style, with colors and stuff everywhere. Sachika is a kind, positive person that is always seeking to help others. She even made a business of it. Happy Parade does pretty much any job that a client asks for, like cleaning, helping people move, and even construction work. Sachika lets Shoma take a shower and feeds him with no expectation of repayment. She gives him chips as well, which makes him generate Zaku Zaku chip Gochizos, close. Sachika gets a call from her friend that needs help moving, and Shoma jumps at the opportunity to help her out. Sachika is surprised to see how strong and quick Shoma is, helping her complete the task of moving super fast. Afterwards, Sachika pays Shoma and jokes that he seems to only get excited about candy. Shoma explains that his mother would talk about these snacks a lot when he was younger, explaining why the snacks make him happy. Sachika stops what she is doing and really listens to him, and she gives him a journal to write about all of the snacks he eats or wants to eat. And I just love that. It's so thoughtful as a gift, and she barely knows Shoma. She also offers to let Shoma live in the apartment and work for Happy Pere. Shoma is shocked at her generosity, and she explains that she only wishes to help others, whether she knows them or not. Of course, things can't be all peachy, and a Granute kidnaps Sachika's friend. Shoma's Gochizos witness the kidnapping and report back to him. Shoma goes to the location and fights the Granute, powering up into his Poppin' Gummy form. The monster is powerful though, and Gavv is overwhelmed by the Granute's tentacle attacks. Gavv uses his new Gochizos to change into his Zaku Zaku Chips form, which is so goofy and I love it. His body armor and swords are made of chips and just look awesome to me. And just like his Poppin' Gummy form, there are mechanics that he has to learn. Cutting straight with his Zaku Zaku swords shatters them, so he has to reload with more Gochizos. So to actually hurt the monster, he needs to attack with his swords at an angle, which does massive damage and cuts those tentacles away easily. I don't know, despite how goofy the costume is in theory, the show makes it work, and Showa aura farms so much wearing it. Shoma saves the captured woman who thinks he's a monster and is terrified of him. Shoma drives away and resolves that he needs to leave Sachika alone to keep her safe from the Granutes. He leaves her a note and she is clearly upset by it. Fast forward back to the end of episode 5, and he comes back to Happy Pere to ask Sachika for a job. I was so happy when this happened because the intro features Shoma, Sachika, and another character I haven't mentioned yet, Hanto, dancing and hanging out at Happy Pere, being friends, and I was dying for this group dynamic. And let me just say, the show takes its sweet ass time getting there, but it was worth the wait to finally have these two hang out more. From this episode on, the formula of the show changes. Shoma still meets new people, though it's through working at Happy Pere helping others now, rather than Shoma traveling around, passing out from hunger, and kind strangers helping him. Okay, let's talk about Hanto. Karakita Hanto is an amateur journalist who works for his mentor and adoptive father, Shisho. Shisho took Hanto in after Hanto's mother was killed by a monster, and as a result, Hanto is obsessed with the monsters and hates them. Hanto doesn't really have any leads on monsters, mostly due to the Granute's ability to blend in with humans. Leads on monsters finally start to come in once the Kamen Rider enters the picture though. At first, Hanto thinks Kamen Rider is also a monster, but once he sees the hero in action, Hanto realizes that the rider is on the side of humans. This fight is also where Hanto meets the mysterious Dr. Suga, who is the only human expert on Granutes, and Suga steals some of Shoma's Gochizos. Suga is a cold and calculating person, using others for his own gain. When Hanto explains that his mother was eaten by a Granute, Suga excitedly begins to hypothesize why it didn't turn her into a plank instead of consoling Hanto. Suga is almost like the opposite of Sachika, and this is just a small example of Suga's attitude. And while Hanto works with him, he doesn't fully trust Suga. Suga theorizes that anyone can use Shoma's Gochizos to become more powerful, even humans. While Suga works on his Granute research, Hanto continues to do his own snooping, hiring Sachika to monitor Twitter for monster sightings. He gets a lead from Sachika, learning that monsters have been sighted. Hanto is about to go, but he realizes he needs to stake out at a club for a story he and Shisho are working on. Shisho, being the nice guy he is, offers to do the stakeout so Hanto can keep working on the monster story, probably because he realizes how important it is to Hanto. Hanto goes to the location and finds a Gochizo stuck in a net. He grabs it, familiar with what it is thanks to Suga, and it jumps out of his hands and leads him to the hideout of Granute agents who are collecting a ton of planks. Hanto is discovered by the agents and almost killed, but Shoma arrives just in time, ready to take down the Granutes with a new sense of self. As he transforms, one of the agents is actually able to cut his cheek, but he's still able to fully transform and doesn't even acknowledge the cut. Badass. The agents are very strong and have Shoma on the ropes, but he changes into his Zaku Zaku Chips form and uses uses the Spicy Chips Gochizo to upgrade his swords into flame swords. With this upgrade, he's able to take down the agents, and he goes back to the hideout to find Hanto trying to save the people. But Gavv stops him and says that if the plank snaps, the person will die. Shoma helps him and frees all the captured people, who are at first terrified by Gavv as usual, but Hanto yells at them, explaining that Shoma is the Kamen Rider that saved them from the monster. This is a big moment because this happens right after Shoma resolves that he will protect humanity from the Granoots, and him being defended by Hanto is big for him, because despite the heroic things he does, Shoma still considered himself a monster before this point. The opening of episode 6 is devastating. Hanto can't find Shisho, so he goes to the stakeout site and finds Shisho's stuff on the ground. Upon further inspection, Hanto finds a plank with Shisho on it, snapped in half. Hanto is haunted by the Kamen Rider's words that a plank being snapped in half results in death, and he truly realizes what he's holding. Obviously, as someone who already lost his mom, losing his adoptive father in such a horrific way breaks him. Hanto's actor plays the scene amazingly, and I was genuinely shocked that Shisho was killed this way. Hanto goes to Suga, desperately hoping he can somehow save his father. Suga is cold as usual, barely seeming to care that Hanto just lost someone so close to him. The doctor does have a plan though. He finished his Granoot countermeasure weapon using the data from the stolen Gochizos and offers it to Hanto with a catch. To fully use the ability of the blaster, officially called the Valenbuster, Hanto must have a piece of Granoot biology in his own body, which Suga conveniently has. Hanto realizes that Suga is trying to use him as a lab rat and initially refuses, but the need to get revenge overwhelms him and he agrees to the surgery. This is pretty crazy to me because they actually show him getting the surgery. Like, not all the guts and stuff, but they do show some blood, and the concept of the entire episode is just so dark. While Hanto is getting his surgery, Gavv is fighting the Granoot that killed Shisho and losing. Each Granoot has their own abilities, and this Granoot is a slimy and slippery mushroom. The monster runs away from Gavv, but runs into Hanto, who attempts to blast him with the Valenbuster. Hanto can barely move, still recovering from the surgery, and uses a chocolate Gochizo to transform. The animation for his transformation is so crazy. He's covered in chocolate, which forms his base suit, and then two giant chocolate bars covered in foil wrap his body. He rips off the foil to reveal, quite frankly, a badass costume made of large, normal, and white chocolate pieces. I love the top of his helmet that's metallic red with the word chocolate written on it, with his forehead gemstone being the first O in chocolate. Suga, of course, is filming the whole thing on his GoPro. Even powered up, Hanto is stumbling and can't even blast the monster, so he goes with a solid punch instead. It's a messy fight, but Hanto is able to beat the Granoot by exploding him with a giant ball of chocolate. Hanto falls to his knees as Shoma finally shows up and is confused by another Kamen Rider. While Shoma is distracted, Suga steals more of his Gochizos. Shoma and Hanto meet on a roof and discuss who they both are as vaguely as possible, both of them panicking in their inner monologues. This is a really funny dynamic because while both Hanto and Shoma have dark backstories, they're both total goofballs. This meeting is a start to their recurring dilemma of having to hide their identities from each other, even though realistically knowing who the other is would be completely fine and probably be a positive in their mission to save humans from the Granoots. But again, they are dumb AF, so we get the goofy versions of Kira and L from Death Note. And that is where I'm going to stop talking about the show, because I really do think it is worth a watch, and I don't want to spoil any more for those who do want to watch. I will say the dynamic of the show gets so much better from episode 7 on, and I already really like the show. But we're not done here. Kamen Rider is a show marketed to kids, and you know what that means. Toys. Play patterns are interesting in Japan, because in the West, we tend to favor action figures, while in Japan, the most important part of many toy lines are the roleplay toys. The Red Gavv and the Valenbuster are the big ticket items of the Gavv line, and both toys feature interactivity with the Gochizos. It's really funny, the Gochizos in the show basically look exactly the same as the actual toy Gochizos. The ones in the show even look like they're made of plastic, which I love. The Gochizos are kind of a collectible for the line. They've released a lot of them already, and some have even been based on past Kamen Rider series as little exclusives. Just like the show, the toy Gochizos open up to reveal little adorable monsters on the inside. The main gimmick of the toy line is putting these Gochizos into the belt, because when you turn the crank and press the button, they make unique noises just like in the show. This is pretty interesting to me. I was never into role-playing toys as a kid, and much preferred action figures to play out my fantasies. And I'm still kind of like that. As much as I think these roleplay items are cool, I kind of can't see myself fully enjoying them, though the interactivity with the Gochizos does have me very interested. There's a bunch more roleplay accessories, but I consider them spoilers, and they ultimately do the same thing as the changers. For action figure collectors like myself, there is a few options. The first are a line of toys called candy toys or SoDo toys, which are action figures that come with candy. This isn't a Kamen Rider Gavv specific thing, by the way. There have been candy toys for past Kamen Rider and Super Sentai series. It's just a bit more on theme with Gavv by coincidence. The candy toys look great. They seem to be 3 3/4 inch, and they come unassembled, so you need to build them, which seems easy enough. But there is also heavy sticker usage, which killed my interest in them immediately. Stickers for toys have always been my arch enemy, and these shaky hands are not meant to apply them, especially these super small ones. The only option I'm aware of for action figures is SH Figuarts, a prestige action figure toy line known for its quality. So far, SH Figuarts has made a widely available popping gummy form of Kamen Rider Gavv. You can get this guy on Amazon if you want him. Unfortunately, the only other figure is Kamen Rider Valen, which is a premium Bandai exclusive. Anyone can buy premium Bandai products, but the issue is they put products up for a pre-order window, and once that window closes, they tend to not be restocked. I think this would be fine for the alternate forms, but putting Valen's main form as a premium Bandai product is crazy work. And the prices are pretty crazy for SH Figuarts as well, with Valen costing $75 USD. So getting toys for this show is a little bit difficult and definitely expensive. I will probably buy SH Figuarts Gavv and call it a day, which is unfortunate because I would definitely collect a line of figures based on the show. Okay, I have like 500 things I probably want to say, but this script is 16 pages long, and Papa has anxiety about discussing something completely different from my usual videos, so I hope you enjoyed, and please like and subscribe if you did. Also, my membership, which costs $1, lets you join an exclusive Discord server where we watch a monthly movie. This month, it's Small Soldiers on March 8th, but if enough Kamen Rider peeps come through the server, I would love to do an ongoing Kamen Rider watch party, where we watch through one of the shows. It'll probably be Gotchard because I love his costume, but I can probably be persuaded as well. Okay, y'all, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week with another video. Ciao.